Yes, it's time for Mark Meets, and my guest tonight grew up in Huddersfield, where he studied classical music. But after forming his own indie band, the Pocket Gods, the band has released 5,000 songs on 76 albums, achieving millions of streams and nabbing a number of Guinness World Records. And if that wasn't enough, in recent years, Mark Christopher Lee decided to start writing and making films exploring his love of UFOs and the paranormal. His latest documentary, King of UFOs, explores the British royal family's interest in UFOs and the unexplained. Appealing to both UFO believers and fans of the Crown, King of UFOs is out now and streaming on Amazon Prime. Mark, Chris... Oh, I think we've got a clip. Thank you, James. Let's do it.
There were dome-like projections around each of the pilots. Charles and his engineering crew were familiar with the craft.
So many sighting reports.
What are they here for? What's Charles going to respond to? Their interest is based on factual knowledge that they've been able to get access to that we don't.
Would alarm people. My God, these things are dangerous. It's a bit like a Pandora's box. If we took the lid off and looked inside, we'd never be the same again.
Wow, King of UFOs is out now and streaming, as I've said, on Amazon Prime. Mark Christopher Lee, welcome to Mark Dillon tonight.
Thank you, Mark, for having me on. It's much appreciated.
Well, that's great. Really, a lot of excitement, publicity around this new documentary film. When did this connection between UFOs and the unexplained and the royal family begin?
Right, it was last year. The chap you saw at the end of the trailer is retired CID officer John Hanson, and he's got this amazing UFO archive in Stratford-upon-Avon. He's literally got tens of thousands of documents of UFO sightings from pilots, etc., and people, members of the public. But he's also got letters from the Queen and Prince Philip about his UFO books and their fascination with it. And I think, wow, look at this, the Queen's into UFOs.
So do we know whether she reached out to them or did they reach
out to her? No, John sent his books to her and Prince Philip, but they responded and added them to their own UFO and paranormal collection, which I thought was interesting.
So it's your understanding that Queen Elizabeth II had an archive or a collection of UFO sightings?
Yeah.
And that it was a subject of keen interest to her?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely fascinating. And do we know what may have sparked that interest? Was it simply these books written by this author?
No, I think it goes back quite a long way, because we go back to Lord Mountbatten, and he allegedly had a UFO land on his estate in Broadlands. And this is documented in his archives. He didn't see it himself, but his labourer, Fred Briggs, detailed this craft landing at Broadlands and took a description, did a drawing, and Mountbatten actually signed a statement testifying to Briggs's honesty, basically. So Mountbatten was massively interested. That kind of went on to Prince Philip, who, in the 50s was massively into UFOs and used to act, because politically it was sensitive, through his equerry, Sir Peter Horsley. And he used to go out and get details of the latest sightings, subscribe to Flying Saucer Review for him, and even nearly met up with an alien called Janus in a flat in Chelsea. Sir Peter Horsley was meeting with his character at his flat, and it was called Janus, and Sir Peter Horsley said this character could telepathically communicate with him, and it was really, really bizarre, and he really wanted to meet Prince Philip. And luckily it didn't happen, because it probably turns out that Janus was a Russian spy. Yeah. But it was just a fascinating story. And this is all documented in Sir Peter Horsley's autobiography. So it's all the cases in the film are documented. It's not just stuff that's made up. It's, it's proper evidence for it.
And given that the Queen was our head of state, might she have been privy to more information about the paranormal and about UFOs than the rest of us?
I think so. And in the film, we interview Richard Felix, who's a paranormal historian. And he says, look at the Vatican archives. There's supposed to be secrets in there. We've got our own in Windsor Castle.
And I understand that the Queen's interest and Prince Philip's interest in UFOs was passed on to Charles, who is now our king.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles has had his own sighting. I couldn't give details in the film because my source wouldn't come forward. But
so you've got a source that suggests that King Charles has seen a UFO?
Yeah. And also, in the film, we have an interview with a Canadian diver called Dan Costello, who claims to have seen Prince Charles fly a prototype UFO in Canada in 1976. I'm not saying it's extraterrestrial, but it was a weird craft. It had dual rotor blades and would just hang in the sky, and the blades would stop. It would be silent, and there'd be electromagnetic hum coming from it.
This is a suggestion that a young Prince Charles, who would have been the Prince of Wales at that point, I think, was flying potentially some kind of unidentified flying object in 1973.
1975.
75.
In Nova Scotia. And he was...
Do we know what the circumstances would be? I mean, would this have been a prototype aircraft from Boeing or some other manufacturer?
Sikorsky, possibly.
Or the Royal Air Force?
Sikorsky. It was a modified Sikorsky. That's what we've been told.
What is a Sikorsky?
It's a helicopter. It's a dual-rotor helicopter.
So then it's adapted. Not... Because what is a UFO?
Well, this is it. The whole point we included this story is not... Because this UFO doesn't mean it's extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
It could be our technology.
So this might have been man-made, but not a conventional aircraft.
Precisely.
Fascinating. And do we know whether Charles maintains an interest in the paranormal or UFOs? I mean, he's famous for talking to plants, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He was heavily influenced by Lauren van der Post, the Afrikaners, and he was very much into synchronicity, Carl Jung, the collective unconsciousness. I'm sure that was passed on to Prince Charles, so I'm sure he's got those beliefs now. And I've written to him at the palace, you know, hoping for an invitation to talk about these things.
What do you say to those watching or listening who think that if you're interested in UFOs, that you're bonkers, that you're mad, that you're a conspiracy theorist?
Well, the Queen, the Prince Philip, they weren't conspiracy theorists. They were very, serious people. And also, the issue I have with this is, we don't take them seriously in this country. In America, we have decorated pilots giving evidence under oath at Congress about them engaging with craft that are doing impossible manoeuvres. I mean, they're taking it very seriously in America. When we're not taking it seriously, it's still a bit of a jokey issue.
Are governments covering up the truth, whether here or in the United States?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah.
And because, you sort of got the likes of Joe Rogan openly talking about UFOs now. Why do you think they would cover it up? Why can't we know the truth?
There's two possible reasons. One is embarrassment, that there's things in our sky that are here, they don't know what they are. So why would they reveal that to us?
Absolutely.
The other thing is they know the truth and it's too scary to release.
Briefly, have you seen a UFO yourself?
I have, yes.
When?
After filming my latest film at Rendlesham in Suffolk, I came back home and saw something in the garden. My wife spotted it first. I put it on YouTube. There's a clip on there. It's unidentified. I don't know what it was.
I tell you, and you hadn't had a drink?
No, I don't drink.
There you go. It's cold. Stone sober. My thanks to Mark Christopher Lee, whose new film, King of UFOs, is streaming on Amazon Prime. Well, it's time now for US News with the Queen of American showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. And Kinsey, the King and Queen in Australia amidst calls for a republic. Could this be a final farewell tour? He's got his work cut out, hasn't he, winning over the Australians?
You know what? King Charles has proven this year that he is capable of adapting to any situation with grace and will remain flexible and avoid conflict when it comes to the idea of republic referendums. Even the Prime Minister, who has previously said Australia should have an Australian as head of state, recently indicated that a referendum was not a priority. And if you look at pictures of him with King Charles, he is grinning ear to ear. He is thrilled to be in his company. Additionally, Buckingham Palace has stressed, like his mother before him, it has always been the case that His Majesty the King feels that it is a matter for the Australian people. So I think he's being very gracious and humble in this instance.
Indeed, the British monarchy has never done the hard sell. King Charles proving to be a really gifted diplomat, isn't he?
He is. No, I mean, also, it just seems to me that this is something he really wants, and he has waited all of his life for it. I've heard he's taken 2 doctors on this trip with him, but to sacrifice, to sacrifice his healing, to ensure that he's there to represent the country, to ensure that he feels like he's doing his job. I think that speaks volumes. Most
definitely. He is proving to be a wonderful diplomat. Will he be diplomatic with his brother, Prince Andrew, over Andrew's accommodation at the rather posh Royal Lodge?
I mean, this is the saga that never ends. Prince Andrew has been described as a prisoner of his own pride when it comes to Royal Lodge. I mean, my personal prediction is that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But there are reports that Prince Andrew is in jeopardy of violating the Crown Estate's lease rules, which specify that he has to make repairs on Royal Lodge. He has to be in the financial position to continue to make those repairs. Otherwise, they can terminate his agreement. And the Express is reporting that the Duke has been given up to the end of the year to prove that he has the financial resources to do that. That same source says it's the closest Andrew has come to being evicted since he was asked to step down as a working royal 2 years ago.
Do we know how financially affluent Prince Andrew is?
I mean, much less off now that Jeffrey Epstein's gone. Jeffrey Epstein was very keen to give him a loan every once in a while. So I'm not sure where his income source is these days. And I'm sure that is something that he struggles with mentally.
And what do we know of Andrew and Charles's relationship? Do they get on?
I think that they get on as much as they always have. They were never close as far as aside from the difference in ages, I think that they've always had much different objectives in life. The king had the weight of being the future king on his shoulders, and Prince Andrew was happy being the Playboy prince. And I just don't think that they have a lot in common. I think that they love each other as much as you do when you have a sibling. But I think that the king's ultimate objective is the future of the monarchy.